Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for today's community question roundup with Ramesh Gulati and myself, Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of UpKeep. As you all know, we are on the Maintenance Mavericks Podcast. It's a podcast for people who want to learn all things about maintenance and reliability. In this episode, again, we're going to be reviewing questions submitted by the members of our maintenance community Slack group. We're going to hear some insights from one of our maintenance experts in residence, the Reliability Sherpa himself, Ramesh Gulati. All right, for those of you that don't know, our maintenance community Slack group is an awesome place for people in maintenance and reliability to ask questions, learn from other people all around the world. We've got 5,000 members in different industries, different countries, and it's a great place to share experiences and learn from other people. If you haven't already, join the maintenance community Slack group at upkeep.org/Slack. All right, today, Ramesh and I are super excited to do a deep dive into real questions asked by our community members within our Slack group. Personally, what I love most about our maintenance community Slack group is the topics span from high-level questions to on-the-ground problem solving. I'm super excited to dig in and hear your take on these questions, Ramesh. You ready to jump in?
Yes, sir. I'm ready to jump in.
So the first question that we've got, and Ramesh, we've done this a few times. The first question that we've got for you is, how do we better promote the role of maintenance technicians since interest in skilled trades is decreasing every single year?
I'll tell you, this is a great question. A lot of people ask me when I start training in my sessions. Yes, there is a scarcity of skilled workforce, especially maintenance and reliability technician. It's a really very significant concern to all of us. With the rise of all computers, smartphones, and all these advancements, our young generation, so-called iGen or millenniums, are not that much interested in a hands-on or reliability maintenance kind of work. Really, if you think about it, if you go to high schools where our young guys get educated, way back 10, 15, 20 years ago, all the high schools used to have workshops in high schools, like welding, carpentry, car repair shops, all these kind of things where they used to learn hands-on skill. If you go now, all the high school, those shops have gone. They're closed. Instead of that, they have opened up computer shops and all this kind of, but everybody can't be a software engineer or software developer to develop games or those kind of things. We need people in our factories, in our plants. We want plumbers and pipe fitters and electricians, all those things, and we don't have. So I think we all have to pitch in this, or our organization have to work with our high school and in the middle schools and let them start these shops. In fact, I've been involved with this programs, where we go to high schools and help them to start these shops again. That's what we have to do. We all have to work. And I think the state of Tennessee, where I live, is doing a good job. They just opened up a new facility in our Nissan plant near there. And it's kind of a joint venture with the industry as well as the state of Tennessee. They opened a training shop, vocational school kind of they're providing all these kind of training to our young people in the new, hands-on kind of things, So I think what I've seen recently that there's a small hope that in the next few years, we go back to high schools and let them learn hands-on kind of skills.
I mean, I was actually just trying to look and find there's a stat. I was reading it yesterday from Deloitte, and I think they're the tune of like 2 million open jobs in manufacturing right now that have gone unfilled. And so kind of talk about like the need for skilled trade, the need of people going into manufacturing industry, and the need is literally right now. 2 million unfilled jobs in manufacturing that cannot be filled because the demand is to go into the labor force is not there.
Well, again, also think about if there is a problem in our high school, as I said, our counselors and the advisors, they think they can make money only if they go to graduate school or something. There's a lot of money they can make, good money, if you become a high skilled person like an electrician or a welder. You can make good money, $70,000, $80,000 or $90,000, that range, once you get the trade, So there's a lot of openings are there, currently.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize that, electricians, plumbers, like technicians, reliability engineers, like these are high paying salary roles
That's
in
right.
many companies.
I mean, I've seen some of our people I knew in our workplace, they wanted a good money and they went to Canada upon those where, well, welder, they're making 120 grand. I mean, that kind of money you can make, good money, So it's not just a software person makes money anymore.
Yeah.
So that was a good question. I think we all have to work, make sure our young people we encourage them to, go to this kind of a training or get education and so on kind of skill.
All right, next question for you, Ramesh. How do you maintain constant communication between different departments within an organization? What are the roles that come together that we have to come together in order for us to have a streamlined process? I think where this question is really coming at is like, how have you seen and what have you seen work really well at the best organizations to communicate cross-departmentally super effectively?
Communication is a key thing. If we communicate within a company or whatever, spend 60, 70, 80% of our time in communicating by, writing presentations or doing something. But problem is we are living in silos. And many companies I have seen live in silos. Operation doesn't talk to, engineering or, again, they do some communication, but not to that much. And that's a problem. In fact, the asset management, which I talk a lot, I've been involved with asset management, and asset management starts from all over. We have to talk to procurement people, we have to talk to capital project people, we have to talk to operation people, major, all have to work together, understand what the needs are, have to pitch in. All are stakeholders in those kinds. Similarly, all our departments people need to talk. I think what's happened is each department, and again, that goes to more on a managers, a vice president or directors, those people have to force that issue, communication among all different departments. To say really communication within, I tell you, our company, and we did a great job. Our CEO, he used to, write emails weekly. He used to write something on monthly, and then used to have a town hall meeting or every 6 months. What's happening? Tell people to communicate, open them. Hey, you need to talk to each other. That's, again, to me, it's a lot more dependent upon who is your head honcho, general manager or directors or your managers. They have to start communicating with the people, what's going on, how they can help, how they can, do they know where the company is going, where organization is going, and that communication has to be there. Again, it's not individual, and we have to get out of this silos.
I totally agree with that. It's a big part of what we're trying to do here at UpKeep is really democratize the data to everyone within the organization.
Yes.
Maintenance, reliability, asset management data shouldn't just belong to the maintenance team. What we do, why we do it should cross-pollinate across every single department. What we've seen actually work really well is kind of like a weekly report publishing like what was done, why it was done, and the impact that it had across many different stakeholders. And you kind of keep this weekly cadence up because it really showcases what's going on at different departments, because it's so easy to lose the empathy of what one other department is going through if you never hear about it.
I'll tell you another example I give you, and this is really, most of us engineering, or we order parts, we don't talk to procurement. We just send the requirement, hey, buy this. And we were having a problem. we were trying to do reliability. We were having some components were failing. So one day I was running reliability engineering group, and I got all my hydraulics engineers. We were talking about, what pump we are using, how to standardize those things, challenges. So I really took a lead. I called our procurement guy who was looking that area, got him in the meeting. Then we started talking, hey, this cylinder doesn't work. These are the issues. These pumps are good for us. These are not good for us. So his eye opened up. He said, hey, guys, I didn't know that you have standardized these kind of things. So getting them involved and sharing that knowledge really help all over the organization. So it's kind of somebody has to take a lead in getting people involved.
Absolutely. Next question for us. How does one manage the people challenge in embracing practices that improve machine and component reliability? I think the question here is probably more around like the change management across the people layer.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that's what I thought too. Yeah.
I think all of us understand more reliable equipment means, better production, better reliability, better productivity for the entire team. But getting to that end state requires a lot of people change.
That's exactly right. To me, anytime we want to implement the best practice, it's improvement. And improvement is a change. When you try to implement a change, unless until it's going to help me, I'm not going to change my habits. It's people's habits. And you have to change. You have to create that scenario where you tell the person, hey, how is going to help him or her to do her job better. Okay. So we have to create WIFM. What's in for me?
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a change management. You have to talk to, even I tell you, when we were implementing this CMMS system, I'm talking back in 80s, we did a lot of training, awareness training, high level. We did by role training. We did all kind of hands-on training, all kind of things we had to do to make sure how that's going to help person, to planner, or supervisor, or procurement guys, all these people who were involved with this system is going to help them to do their job better, and how easily the information flow and those kind of things. So I think you're right. It's kind of a change management. We have to let people understand how this process change is going to help them to do their job better.
I love the framework that you brought up. You just briefly mentioned it, but I actually think it's the most important thing that, people forget about, which is what's in it for me. When you drive change within an organization, as selfless as we hope that everyone is, so really taking any kind of change and looking at it from the perspective of what's in it for them, what's in it for each individual, I think actually helps drive a lot of positive change management because you put yourself in their shoes.
That's right. Planner, if I'm going to have CMMS system or something, how is going to help planner to do his job, right? Or material guy or something, what's in for me? This really happened to me. I think I was traveling somewhere and got a rented car. When I got in my car and I started driving, I suddenly realized that I don't have a dashboard. My dashboard was a Toyota Yaris. This was 8 or 10 years ago. They moved dashboard in the center. Again, they had a good reason for that because they wanted, hey, steering wheel they can put on left side or right side, depending on which country they're going to make. But they didn't ask me how it's going to impact on me. I'm the user. But they didn't talk to me or they didn't tell me when I got the car. And boy, those half hour, 30, 40 minutes I was driving somewhere, my head was going like this. I was doing this all the time because I have to see what speed I'm driving.
Yeah.
I have to turn, in the center to see what mileage I'm driving, what kind of speed. So it was a big change on me. Similarly, people who are doing their job, is this change going to help them or not? So if unless until it's helped and I have to change people's behavior for good reason, for the good thing.
Yeah, you're totally right. The next question kind of talks about a very topical issue right now, which is, the supply chain issue. The question that someone asked us, what they said is, the world right now is running short of everything due to the supply chain issues. A few days before Thanksgiving, I tried to get gravy at a local grocery store, but they ran out and told me they're not going to have any in stock until after the holiday.
Yep.
I checked multiple stores and they're all sold out as well. I've never experienced this before. Do we just have to get used to this shortage in the supply chain? Are there any solutions? So maybe there's kind of two questions here, Ramesh.
Yeah.
One is what's going on? Number one. And then two, when do you think it's going to end? And what do you think the solutions are to this supply chain issue?
Well, the way I was looking this question is there two things. First thing is most of our supplies are coming from out of country. There's some we're going to come back in this country also, but most of our supplies are coming from Asia or somewhere because we got used to cheap stuff, to speak. And that's has helped really what that encouraged us to close our plants here, excuse me, and we became too dependent on this. Now that's supply chain issue we are having. Okay. Now there are supply chain issues there are a lot of port congestion there. Ports are really full. There's a container shortage. I was just talking, in fact, this morning I was looking Bloomberg and they were talking about these 3-4 points. Hey, we don't have containers. I mean, there's a shortage of those. Plant shut down due to, again, lack of skilled people or due to COVID also. There's a shortage of people. And all these issues are really giving us a lot of challenges. And I think with the infrastructure bill and money coming in, so it's going to take us few years to put our infrastructure back, which is going to help us. I think we all have learned that we cannot, completely shut down our thing or go everywhere outside the US and get the things from there. I mean, each country has to do their own production or something, keep that. And with the infrastructure, the water pipelines are so bad in some cities and some places. And other day I was reading a UNO report that so much, about 50 or 60% of good water we lose through our bad piping infrastructure. We have to, I think this money bill is going to help us to recover some of those issues. Hopefully in a short period, we're going to face these issues and another 6 months, a year, things will get better.
Yeah. And I've kind of had a few discussions with many of these experts in the past around the supply chain issue. We got used to basically low-cost goods, and oftentimes it comes from different countries. In order to drive down the cost, we moved to this just-in-time manufacturing, just-in-time, supplies. And ultimately what that does is, you create a lot of single points of failure. And when you have one of these, it just creates a domino effect. And that's ultimately what happens.
That's right. Supply chain is really our just-in-time philosophy has to work if your supply chain is working right.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't work right, if you start putting a lot more, I give an example, this is when Walmart, you buy a toothpaste or something, at the end of the day, that how many toothpaste you bought goes to whosoever their supplier, and next day they supply those things. They make those many, number of those many, suppose you use 20 of those, they're going to supply you 20 of those. But if you take suddenly 50, hey, that's going to create a problem. You cannot make 50, So because their setup is for so many, on average, So that's an issue. It's going to take a while to set those one to make some, and warehouse problems, that's another problem.
Yeah.
Warehouse, where we're going to store? We don't have a space in the warehouses.
Yeah, it definitely is this domino effect. And then to your point, like everything gets exacerbated. Once you say shortage, people go out and hoard. And I'll tell you, Ramesh, I'm very, very guilty of this. I'm a big tennis player. And I heard recently that there was going to be a tennis ball shortage because of the supply chain. And I went to my local Big Five and I bought a bunch of tennis cans because
we all do that. It's not you, it's we all do that. Hey, we hear it, there's long line, let's buy about 2 extra things or 5 extra or something. So that's our old habits. It's going to happen.
Oh man, I'm definitely guilty of that. We kind of briefly alluded to this, but ultimately the infrastructure bill was just passed.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? What's going on with the infrastructure bill? What do you think about it? Is it going to make a difference?
There's a breach over Mississippi River in Memphis. About a year and a half ago, they found a crack. It was there for a long time. Somehow inspection didn't do a right job, inspector, and they missed it. And finally, it cracked, and it was down for almost a year. It took them to do a patch up work almost a year. I was in a conference, they were telling, how they found it and all these kind of things. But I mean, those are kind of our basic transportation means. Now, due to that bridge was down at Mississippi River from between Arkansas and Tennessee, main bridge on I-40, they have to reroute another 70, 80 miles, something like that. How much cost will go. So I think this infrastructure will hopefully build our structure back to where it should be so we can get A or B grade instead of C and D, and that's our water structure, our infrastructure. Hopefully, what I saw, there's a money for each area, for bridges, for the roads, for the dams, and for the airport and all kind of thing. Hopefully, that's going to help for next 8 or 10 years. We're going to keep spending money, and that's going to help us to do our better shape, our infrastructure, which is going to help our supply chain management.
Yeah. I mean, so here's one thing that's going on through my mind, Ramesh. I feel like we've always talked about like investing in our infrastructure. We've always talked about like, building back our bridges and roads and really investing in the infrastructure of the society that we live in. I don't think anyone questions the importance of that. We've been talking about it for a while, and I have this like intuition that like we're going to pass this bill, but we're still going to have problems in our day-to-day. I mean, maybe that's warranted, maybe it's not, but I don't know. Like, do you have any thoughts around that? Like, is this just going to be another one of these things that we say we're going to do, and then ultimately, 5, 10 years later, we're still having the same problems? Or do you think it's actually going to be different this time?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit different because I know its problem is there from 8, 10, 15 years. We have been hearing it. Our roads are bad, bridges are bad, because civil engineering society is rating those, giving them C and D, all kind of thing. Again, politics. It's all politics. Whatever in a business we can take a decision. At that government level, politics play a big game. I think as you said, we all realize that hey, we have to do something. Otherwise, we're in pretty bad shape. So hopefully now bill is passed. So we gonna get money. Money coming. It takes time. I tell you, I have worked for the government indirectly for the Air Force to get some money to do something. We are talking millions of dollars when we're talking. It takes you to plan something like we wanted to build a new test facility. Okay, the old one had a problem. They thought about it. Hey, we had to do something back in 60s. They put something together. Hey, we need to do this. Went to government asked for money. It was approved. It took 8, 10 years to get that money. Then it took 8, 10 years to build that facility.
Yeah.
So by that time it got built, it was 30 years old already. You have to go back and rebuild all control systems and all these kinds of things. So it's the government. That's the way they are slow in, it takes time. Then there's a funding issue of color of money. You cannot take this color of money, mix with this, mix with that. Where private organization, they can come and allocate money and get it done in 2 years.
So what I hear from you is that, it's going to take time. It'll be a little bit slower, but, it sounds like you're optimistic, Ramesh. And because of that, I'm optimistic too. All right. All right. Let's talk about some cool trends within technology and reliability, remote condition monitoring. What are some of the tools that you use that you've seen other people use in terms of technology and reliability, condition monitoring, and inspections?
A good friend of mine, Jack Nicholas, who is a PDM expert. He used to run PDM company, and he wrote a book. In his book, he says, what's happening in this technology field. 1980s, chips came, microprocessor came. That time we came portable data collector devices. Then in 90s, laptop came, and we got software package to collect the data and do a little bit better job. Then 2000, now we is transferring the data. Last few years, this last decade, now we have got IoT, smart sensors. Those are, in fact, I just got a Fluke just sent me a new camera, portable camera. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, we thought cameras are cheap, infrared camera, ultrasonic gun. So we wanted to give to our each crew a camera and ultrasonic gun, but it was still expensive. It was 5 or 10 grand. So then we said, no, maybe we cannot do. But now they're so cheap that every crew can have a camera, ultrasonic gun. It's a $5,000, couple of $1,000. And that's what is going to happen. All the smart sensor and all our data collection devices are getting so small and cheap that I think our people need to have them. Everyone can have it,
Yeah. So to that point, Ramesh, I don't think people realize the significance of this because, ultrasound has been around for forever.
Yeah.
But the technological change here, and to your point, is that ultrasound and, other PDM tools like remote condition monitoring tools, the price has been dropped by a fraction of the cost.
That's right.
The big opportunity here is that now you can start monitoring equipment that you couldn't, just financially, you couldn't monitor before because it was too expensive. And what this does is it opens up a completely entirely new opportunity for new people, new jobs, new assets that you're, monitoring and tracking. It enables, our customers, reliability managers to now have bigger sets of data on equipment that they previously just could not make financial sense to monitor because it was so expensive.
That's right. And I think also there's another part is a training, educating our people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, again, I have seen, we have a metrics for how much money we should spend on the training budget, about 5-6%. I got even 8%. Nowadays, many companies, they give only 2 or 3%. 1% means about 20 hours per person, something like this, 1%, because 2,000 man hours per person in a year. So you take a 5% is about 100 hours per person. And that is the minimum necessary to educate our people. These new tools are available. They are cheap, but we have to educate our people as how to use them, how to make best use of those tools. That's another part is that as a company organization, if I'm a leader or manager, I must make sure we can buy those tools, give to them, and also train them.
There's a funny meme going around right now, and it's kind of like a manager and their boss kind of speaking, and the manager goes or the boss goes, what happens if we invest in training people and then they leave? And the response back is kind of what if we don't and they stay?
That's exactly right. In fact, our chief engineer, way back, I'm talking almost 20 years ago, he was so adamant when they said cut the training budget. He said, no, we don't want to cut training budget. If those person don't leave, then what's going to happen? That's a waste of money. No, it's not a waste of money. Suppose it doesn't leave, then what's going to happen? So really, we have to prepare. I mean, technology is there. Those tools have become very dirt cheap to speak as compared to what used to be. So, but we have to prepare our people. We have to spend money on those tools and in educating our workforce too.
Let's talk production planning. Best practices for production planning on a manufacturing company. Tell us some of the tricks of the trade.
Well, I was involved with the production planning, implementing a tool back in 70s. It's called ERP, Enterprise Resource Plan. That's what that tool is, where I give you an example. What you do is, if I have to make I got a fountain pen or let's say hammer or something, any tool, it takes whatever order you get. Hey, I have to make a red pen or 1,000 hammers, claw hammers or something. So it takes that hammer and breaks down in a small component, and then once you do that small component, then it goes to the production shop hey, we have to make 1,000 of these hammers, the claws, and we need a handle, we need this. So it breaks down and give the work order to each shop to build those. And then there's an assembly area where they assemble it. So that tool used to be just for production planning. Now it's a tool has expanded from sales to marketing. It can take the same tool, ERP, can do all kind of stuff. Most of the companies have that. Without that, they cannot work it. It's like we do work planning. This is for them production planning.
Yep, yeah, we're very, very familiar with ERPs and the whole resource planning component of it. Some people like their ERPs, some people hate it, but I think to your point, Ramesh, it's absolutely necessary.
It's necessary
to be able to take something from, it actually starts at marketing, right? The awareness, all right, drive it down to the sales, like what do we need, what are we selling, and have that go all the way down into the shop floor. And then back up into like the customer relationship management tool, shipping, supply chain. Like it is a very, very important tool. And there's tons of best practices on ERP production planning out there.
It is a CMMS when it started back in 70s, 80s. It was scheduling PMs only back in 70s. Okay. It was just automating our index system. I know I worked with the index, PMs monthly or those, and it was automated. Then we added planning, then we added materials and all kind of things added. Same thing, ERP was the production. You break it down, give to shops. Now it's added marketing to sales, to the shop floor, to the shipping. All these things module have been added, and the financial system also. And each one has its own best planning, or best practices in it. So how to do those things.
And that wraps up all of our questions for today, Ramesh. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer some of our community members' questions. If any of our listeners want to receive answers to their own questions, join us in our Slack community at upkeep.org. You can receive live answers from fellow members or hear from Ramesh Gulati himself in our monthly roundup. Again, thank you so much, Ramesh. My name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of UpKeep. I hope to talk to you next time. And thank you again. Everyone enjoy the rest of their day.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone. And keep up some good questions coming. How we can help you.